Now, when you have these conversations, you need to be in what I refer to as balanced queen energy, calm and dignified. Not from the place I spoke of earlier, when you're on the crony triangle feeling like a victim, bitch or martyr, or being driven by Superwoman to do it all and then get triggered by guilt or shame. When you come from this balanced place of inner personal power, you are commanding respect. You are simply stating your case unemotionally. There is no room for guilt, resentment, or anger from either party. Hi there, lovelies. I'm Rhonda Crimes. I'm a life and leadership coach supporting everyday people just like you to reflect and rework your everyday stories so you can step into the everyday leadership of your families and communities and create compelling, meaningful and fruitful lives every day. Today, let's talk about saying no is much easier than you think. Okay, I just heard the sharp intake of breath as you race to explain to me that while that statement might be okay for me to say, actually, I don't understand your situation, your relationship, your mother, your boss, your child, or your background. And on you go, explaining all the reasons you tell yourself why it's just not that easy for you. And then you'll go on to offer up every situation you can recall to validate your position on this. I get that. It wasn't always easy for me, and sometimes if I'm not okay or I'm feeling overwhelmed, I can still struggle too. It all goes back to what I've been banging on about all year. We have been brought up to comply with the cultural expectation to look after other people. We know the consequence of not doing this can lead to our exclusion or withdrawal of affection, attention, recognition, and ultimately love and belonging. We've been convinced to believe there's a huge price to be paid by saying no. But let me talk to this point a little, especially for my people-pleasing good girls. We have been raised to be accommodating and will put ourselves into sacrifice to take care of others, to make them happy, to accommodate their wishes and dreams, right? So when we do get to the place where we feel we just can't do anymore, we are depleted. We literally have no time, energy, money, or spirit to give anymore. So we're entering the conversation from a place of disempowerment. We are already feeling guilty. We are already feeling disorganized. We are already bracing ourselves for the disappointment we will provoke. We are already in a triggered state before we even speak. Can you see that? You are not alone, and that is why this week I want to talk about what can feel like the hardest two-letter word in the world to say, and that is no. Have you ever found yourself in the position of being asked to do something you don't really want to do, but because you don't want to sound unkind or be rude or offend the other person, you agree, and then feel resentful or weak-willed or any number of other things you can come up with to beat yourself up about. And then, more often than not, it means you've overcommitted and now you have to disappoint someone, which leads you to the really uncomfortable position of choosing which is the less unpleasant of the two choices. that is a really tough place to put yourself in. Perhaps you say yes for all the what feels right at the time reasons. And then when it comes closer to the event and when you're not in direct contact with the person who was asking, where you've had time to reflect, so you're now able to find or fabricate a what feels right at the time excuse to get out of it, usually at the last minute, and often leaving the other party feeling really let down. But they are usually too polite or shocked to say anything, so you tell yourself it was all okay, sort of. But either way, there is an uncomfortable air around the arrangement. So what I want to share is how to say no gracefully. I want to assure you it is possible, and I use it in my everyday life, and you can too. Although it might take some practice, just like any other new skill. It's a 4-step process. 1, acknowledge the person. 2, state the boundary. 3, decide if it's a deal breaker. 4, collaborate a way forward. I want to give you some everyday scenarios so you can see how saying no gracefully can be integrated into your life experience. Let's set the scene. You get a call from a workmate or boss asking you to bake your world-famous, gluten-free, nut-free, fat-free, and yet still somehow tasty muffins for the staff morning tea tomorrow. Now you know you don't have enough of the right flour or other secret ingredients in your pantry, so you have to go out and buy some. You could go out and do this, but you really wanted a nice, simple night at home with your partner or the kids because you felt like you've been neglecting them lately. And actually, you were really hoping for an early bedtime too. So step 1 is acknowledge the person. You might say something like, "Oh, thank you for asking me to help out." This is respectful and grateful and leaves the door open to provide for this person's need in the future. Step 2 then is to state the boundary. So the full sentence would go something like this. "Oh, thank you for asking me to help out, but that just doesn't work for me tonight." It's very important that no reasons or excuses or explanations are needed to be included. Just state the boundary and move on to step 3, which is deciding if it's a deal breaker or not. Now in this scenario, if you find that every time someone else at work won't or can't do the morning tea, and now somehow they're expecting you to fill the gap each time, and it's really been happening way too much, you could say something like, "Oh, thanks for asking me to help out, but that just doesn't work for me tonight. And also, I've noticed that some of the others aren't pulling their weight, and I'm no longer willing to always cover for them." Then you're ready for step 4, to collaborate a way forward. So you might add, "Let me see if I can think of anyone else who might be able to help you out." Or, "Perhaps we can all contribute a small sum of money and get something really yummy from a bakery." Now, when you have these conversations, you need to be in what I refer to as balanced queen energy, calm and dignified. Not from the place I spoke of earlier when you're on the crony triangle feeling like a victim, bitch or martyr, or being driven by Superwoman to do it all and then get triggered by guilt or shame. When you come from this balanced place of inner personal power, you are commanding respect. You are simply stating your case unemotionally. There is no room for guilt, resentment, or anger from either party. Now, most requests are not deal breakers, but often they do have consequences. Like being asked for the umpteenth time by a child, can they please watch the same thing on TV or the iPad for the 765th time today? The format is the same. Thank you for asking so nicely, but that is not going to be able to happen again today. If they persist, you land the consequence. I have said no, and if you ask me again, there will be no more screens today or tomorrow. And then I would ask them to help me think of something else they could do instead, or I'd offer another distraction in a way to collaborate the way forward, like a puzzle, a walk, or something else that's enjoyable. Another example I noticed in my peer group was the teenager asking for just another $10 for something that was so important. You could say something like, oh, thanks for thinking I will have managed my money well enough to have some left over. I appreciate that vote of confidence, but actually, I won't be able to give you any more money until your next allowance. If they persist, you land the consequence. I have said no, and if you ask me again, I will actually delay your allowance transfer by another day. Now, the collaboration opportunity could look like this with a teenager. Let me see if I can help you work out another way of you earning that money, or maybe budgeting better. Or you could introduce the loan system that they must pay back. From my own personal experience, that was a great way for my kids to learn how hard it could be sometimes to manage consumer debt, but in a very safe and manageable way for all of us. Another graceful no I still use with my own children, and lots of other situations, quite frankly, is if you want an answer straight away, it's no. But if you want to wait and give me some time to see what I can do, it could change. That was a really great strategy for giving me space to think and check my schedules so I didn't overcommit or double book myself. So in these examples, it was a conversation with someone who is important for you. A friend, a co-worker, a family member, a patient or a client. All those sorts of people. But what about saying no to someone who isn't important for you? Now, this could be a stranger, or it could be someone you know. Either way, you know doing what they're asking will put you into sacrifice of time, energy, money, or spirit, or it's simply something that is not aligned to your values. It's the random raffle out the front of a store, or it's the humanitarian or welfare representative knocking at your door at home or emailing you for support again. It's the cold call over the phone for a cause that just doesn't align to your finances or values. In these situations, it's vital for you to realize, yes, especially for you, my people pleasers, you are not responsible for the well-being of everyone. You can simply say no or no thank you without explanation or guilt. Have faith that someone else who is aligned to their values or beliefs will come along after you to support them. If it's a persistent volunteer who comes after you, thrusting a pamphlet at you in a shopping centre, just say no and keep moving. They've been trained to make you feel you should stop, and then you're more likely to give to them and probably regret it later. If it's a pesky caller who won't take no for an answer, don't answer the phone again and block them if you can. So I feel confident that you can see saying no gracefully is the way to go. Using this simple 4-step approach doesn't set you up to feel bad or commit to things you really prefer to avoid and then have to back out of awkwardly. Those 4 steps to saying no gracefully were: 1, acknowledge the person; 2, state the boundary; 3, decide if it's a deal breaker; 4, collaborate a way forward. I hope this has been useful, and if through this message you see that your now is not the picture that you've painted for yourself, and you'd like any help on that discovery path, or maybe something completely different to you that you intuitively know or feel isn't letting your true colours shine through, please do get in touch with me. You can do it really easily by leaving a comment, sending me a private message, or popping over to my website, rhondacrimes.sinclairo.com, and go to the Contact Me page that now houses the email and Calendly online diary options. If you know or feel you're hitting your "I've had enough of this" set point, then let's set up a free curiosity call and have a chat to see how I can support you and to also make sure we're a good fit for each other without any obligations. Much love until next time.